Hey everybody, Gurmy's Coaster Yard here, and in today's episode of Germanator Studios, we will be finishing the exterior of our Dinosaur Dark ride. In fact, we're going to be completing the ride entirely, as far as I can remember. And then we will also be making some additions to our dinosaur themed area as a whole, and the area will be mostly done by the end of the episode. Um, I think in the episode after this one, we'll probably get the area finished or nearly finished. Anyhow, right here you can just see me placing up some exterior walls. It's pretty straightforward. And as I mentioned in a previous episode, I wanted to change this little interior portion to an exterior portion. And in conjunction with that change, I also built up I think I do it here soon. I basically added a photo booth, that sort of area after a ride where you walk past and you see your photo, your on-ride photo on all the monitors. I basically added that in, but it looks like I haven't done that yet, so that'll happen a little later. And right along here, I ended up extending the service road and getting rid of those trees. That's not something I wanted to do, um, and I had some issues with fitting in the service road to make it get all the way back there. I end up getting rid of these walls here. Um, the reason I didn't put them right up against the building was because I didn't want the stone on the inside to protrude outside of them. But in the end, I decided better to have the surface road get all the way back where it needs to, and just have that wall hug the building a little better. I would rather do that than have stone peeking out. Um, so I made that little change, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And here you can just see me adjusting the fence, so on the side that faces the entrance area, the color scheme works a little better. And here I moved on to the back wall. You can see we're extending it with that go away green color. Um, and I will extend that part of the way around the side. We start with white here, but eventually, okay, that was on the interior wall. So you can see me going through with the go away green color. And you'll notice I don't extend that all the way to the edge just yet, and you'll see, okay, I do extend it to the edge, but you'll see in a little bit where I change that. And what I end up doing here is I wanted this wall to sort of fit the color and the aesthetic of the entrance area of the park. So I added some fake windows um, just to make it look like a building that belongs. Really, it is probably like an office building, or maybe it could look like an apartment building. But I just wanted to have this facade there because the building, even painting it go away green, it would be kind of hard to hide the fact that it's there. So I decided let's embrace it instead of trying to mask it. And it just fits better with the theme of the area, and I think that little facade makes it look nicer overall. But in the areas where it really is just behind the scenes, we painted the go away green color. And in the areas where it can be seen from the dinosaur land, it is painted a gray color. So every angle you look at it, it fits the desired theme. Now here, because we had the black ceiling, and I wanted to do a gray roof, as I do with most of my buildings, I extended the the portions of the ride that are 4 units tall up by a one third height wall essentially. That way we can put in the gray roof over top of the black ceiling. And here you can just see me going through and completing the roof, putting on the office roof edge pieces just to create that border. Nothing too crazy. And here I'm completing the roof. Um, yeah. Anyway, it's the inevitable point in the video where I don't have anything to say. I should have sped this up a little more than I did, but that's okay. And there, where that black tile was, I said this at the end of the last episode, but it was kind of rushed. Basically, there was a fiery torch piece underneath there, and I didn't know if there was going to be a smoke particle effect coming up, so I put the black piece there as an indicator as to where I would put an air conditioner, because I figure from the outside, if you see smoke coming out of the building on its own, it might look weird, but having an air conditioner, if it doesn't mask the smoke, it'll at least give it some context from the exterior viewpoint. So you could say that's a little Easter egg, but I'm pretty sure the smoke doesn't even peek through. And there you can see where I built that little photo booth at the end of on the exit ramp of the ride. And I also put a little safari fence in to enclose that area from the rest of the park. So yeah, you can see me putting in the fence in just a moment. I'll get to it. Um, I'm just fixing up the pathways, obviously, to make it fit the theme of the area. And I guess you didn't see me put the fence in, but it ends up there. And I mentioned the change of theme in the last episode, or that we have a storyline. So I decided to change the queue to reflect the new storyline. So instead of just having that giant scenery piece in the middle, I decided to make the queue tell a little bit more of a story about this research facility. So I went with just a pretty standard. Not that there really is a standard for like themed queues, but basically what I did was I added like a little movie theater area that guests will enter. It has a fake projector screen, and I say fake because you can't actually project things in Rollercoaster Tycoon 3, other than lasers, but not quite what we want here. Anyway, so I added that little theater area, and in here I wanted to add like a research laboratory type of deal. And you can see me experimenting with glass, but I ultimately just go with the glass wall set glass. I'll do that in a moment after I finish off the queue right there. So we'll see in a moment. But basically, the storyline, as I mentioned, is you're going into the past to try and find the whatever it was, the dinosaur eggs, the not dinosaur eggs technically, from the past. Um, you're trying to find those for research purposes. So I thought, well, we could start off that storyline by having basically I create like these 4 pods that I put the dinosaur egg scenery pieces in, and there you'll see I encase them with glass and everything. But one of the pods is empty, and that's sort of the one that they're trying to fill with the Dimetrodon, whatever, eggs. And here you can see where I did that, and it's the one closest and to the left. That's where they're missing. I figured just looking at the showroom as a whole, that would be the easiest to notice that there are eggs missing from that spot. As opposed to putting in the back where it might be harder to see. And that's about all I did with this room. Eventually, at some point, I do put the prehistoric lamp pieces underneath just to illuminate the eggs from underneath. And then eventually I put a doorway on the back wall there, and as well as put wall pieces on that same edge. I try putting the doorway here, but it intersects with the ramp piece, and just ultimately you can see it from the other sides, and it doesn't really work. So I settled on putting it where you see it now, and here in a moment I build up these walls just so everything can be flush. And that's all pretty straightforward. I feel like I say things are straightforward when I have nothing else to say. But here I am getting ready to put back the skylight we had before. I liked having that, and I thought it would look just as good here, if not better. So I'm putting it back into the laboratory and finishing off some more odds and ends, putting a roof back in. Nothing too crazy. And that is that completed. What are we going to do next? We are going to scene change. Ah yes, we're working on the entrance here. So you see here the name I initially settled on was okay. So I put the research facility name on the actual like sign in front of the line entrance. Um, and I'm pretty sure the name I settle on here is not even the final name I run with in the end. I want to see what I put it as here. Okay, we called it name initially, but I'm just going to say it. I end up calling it Primeval Pursuit because because it's like in the prehistoric setting, and Pursuit because you're in pursuit of these lost dinosaur eggs. So I thought that was a pretty clever name for the attraction. Um, and along here you can see me putting in various emergency exits. That's essentially what they would be. Um, Different emergency exits along the outside and just working on some infrastructural components to the ride. You can see I use the LA doorway piece um, right in there to get that grid pattern, but also have a doorway that could step right outside, and that goes right to the track. And what else? Just more doors, more doors. That's from Lord of the Rings, isn't it? I think Mordor. I don't know. I never watched Lord of the Rings. Alright, and there I put a little staircase on that exit because it's elevated. So just those little attention to details. And speaking about attention to detail, we don't want guests getting into the park, so I just extended this fence a little bit now that that behind the scenes area is complete. And here I'm extending those hedges as well. Eventually they'll need to be extended all the way to the edge, and there's no reason I couldn't have done that except I wanted to spare you guys from it. And here I'm putting trash cans in the queue, and in the theater area I put some seating just for the fun of it. But it's one of those things that's important that I think people often neglect is putting trash cans throughout the queue and putting lights. Those will just help keep the queue from getting too cluttered, and it'll also keep your janitors from having to go in the queues. So just in the grand scheme of things, it's a good detail to remember. Um, and it'll help boost your park ratings too if you don't have as much trash around the place. So we're definitely in need of more trash cans too in this section. So that'll be something I have to address in the next episode. But we will certainly do that. And what else? Palm trees, important. Yeah, okay, so now we're just doing some more lighting around the area. And that's all pretty straightforward. I don't remember if I did the lighting in the ride or not. Oh yeah, here along here, so you see me putting, because I put those little square metal entrances into the time warp tunnel thing. I ended up closing them off on that end, and I found that I can put a little piece under them too. The tall Chicago corner or whatever it was from the office wall set, and so I do that on all four corners where those corner space pieces are, um, just to close them off. For whatever reason, the small or like the short Chicago wall corner, those didn't like to go in those spots for whatever reason, but the tall one fits, so I put it in there just to make everything completely enclosed, and I think it worked better. And here you can see me going through and adjusting some of the taller, or the clearances I should say, um, making sure that people don't smack their foreheads when they're riding this ride. And there were a couple spots where it was needed. I'm pretty sure I got all of them. We'll see in the POV at the end of this video. I did film an updated POV for you guys. I guess I should have paid attention to that, but I don't remember seeing anything while I filmed it that seemed like it could cause a concussion, and that's what's really important. And here is where I decided to change the background. I think I hinted at this in the end of the last episode. I may even continue working on changing the background so they aren't all black, especially in the main rooms where you can see dinosaurs and stuff. Having like an actual sky, I guess, a skybox, if you will, instead of just a blank background, just to add more context to the scenes. But here I wanted to layer it sort of like a prehistoric sky. So we start with brown just to represent the dirt and the horizon. and then we work our way up to a dark orange, and then we go to a lighter orange. And instead of going with yellow on top, I thought all the yellows looked a little too fake, I guess. So you can say I experimented it with there, but I settled on that nice warm pink color, and I thought that worked really nicely for that top layer. And I think that whole color scheme just really works well. Um, it's subtle from the angle of the riders, but I think it achieves what it needs to achieve. And here you see me putting some more lighting in throughout there just to make sure the backdrop gets lit up when it's dark. And there's not much to that. And here, now we're working more on the area itself. I put in a little dinosaur go round. I didn't know what I wanted in that center spot, and I kept thinking I was going to put a building there, but I was like, we already have a weenie. A weenie is a technical industry term for like any centerpiece that sort of draws the eye in, and that's the volcano in this area. We already have that, so we don't really need one in that centerpiece there. And I realized I had not placed a dinosaur go round yet, and I also realized that it's basically mandatory for this section of the park. So I put that there. The only issue I had was the queue line, but for the most part it works nicely. Um, and along here we are building a drink stand out of the wattle walls from the bamboo wall set under the Paradise Island or the Paradise scenery, I believe. And that's pretty straightforward. Um, a lot of these stands, I make them bigger than they look. I was going to do a little restaurant, but I think that would be better suited for like a border of this world because if we want to include a kitchen, you kind of need that space. We could do a small like snack stand here. You don't need as much space for those kitchens because you really just need the bare minimum to output as many corn dogs and burgers and everything as you need. Um, and trust me, having done those building inspections at Cedar Point, like I've mentioned before, um, I've seen a lot of those kitchens, and they are not huge at the little individual walk-up stands. Um, but here we'd settled on the drink stand, and we'll do a nice sit-down restaurant somewhere else in this area. And I went for a variety of drink options. I think we did a soda stand, the crocktail stand, and a coffee stand. And we call it Dino Drinks because that's the clear choice for a name for this little drink stand, given the area. And you see me here putting in those signs to call it that name. So nothing too crazy. Um, and I think this looks nice. This is sort of inspired by my little Lost Island world from the fourth Germanator Studios, in that the main building theme is that Paradise Island wall set, whereas the dinosaurs are more of a background feature of the area. They aren't really the prominent architectural feature, or at least like that prehistoric, whatever you want to call it, isn't. I honestly find the prehistoric wall pieces, although they work well in certain contexts, they can be difficult to work with. And I think the bamboo wall set works a little nicer for the buildings that guests will be interacting with and up close to. Um, and along here, in these little back sections, um, I start by making a little border out of the low adventure hedgerow, and eventually you'll see me start putting dinosaurs in here. I've had dinosaur like walkabouts in previous parks, and I always think it works nice. And you might be wondering why I'm doing this when I have a whole attraction with all these animatronics. And my reasoning is that um, the ride we built thematically it could be kind of intense for some people. So for younger visitors, younger guests in our park, we want them to be able to experience the dinosaurs up close without being in an intense ride situation. Um, and having a walkabout is a great opportunity to do that. And it's also a great filler, and they always look nice in the end. I mean, this I like how this one turned out because it shows that you can have it along the main pathway and not as its own little walkthrough attraction. Um, and that it still works nice in the end. So I am happy with how this one turns out eventually, and you can see it coming together here. How it looks now is pretty much how it will look in the end. I do put some more trees and such in, and I put little placards in with the dinosaur names so the guests could read and see what the dinosaurs are. And I also, because we included Ice Age animals in our attraction, I also include them in this section along the little back edge. And that also allows us to have um, some scenery along there for the guests to look at and sort of interact with, as opposed to just plants. And it definitely makes use of all the space that we have. Um, but before I do that, you can see me just putting in all those dinosaur names right now. I don't know what else to say in between these moments. But yeah, I guess one comment I will make is you can have dinosaur walkabouts be their own separate attraction in terms of like a separate path guests have to walk down that's not part of the main path, and whatever you decide to do, I mean, there's no wrong choice um, as to what you want to do, but I think you want to make sure it just fits nicely with the park, and I think in this context it works well with the space and it makes it feel a little more lively as opposed to just having planters. And here's where you can see me putting in the Ice Age animals. We got our woolly mammoth and our woolly rhino coming up here. And I decided to put the saber-toothed tiger sort of look like it was stalking the rhino. I don't know if it would prey on rhino in real life, but in the fictional world, that's sort of what it looks like it's doing. So we're going to roll with it. Nothing too crazy there. And here I'm just putting in those placards, and I'll put in a couple more trees here just to finish things off. Now, that gray concrete area back there, I think I want to do something with it to fit the dinosaur area theme. I don't know if I'm going to include it in that theme or the theme of the neighboring section. But if you guys think that it could work well having some sort of dinosaur themed attraction, maybe a roller coaster, let me know and I will consider it. And here I'm just putting in another dinosaur up front. This is the plesiosaur to go with the apatosaur. I realized that both of them, well, the apatosaur tends to be seen in water and any like dinosaur themed attraction I've seen, and the plesiosaur is of course a water animal, so we put that one in there as part of the walkabout experience. And finally, we're just going through and putting some dirt, painting the terrain basically, just to dot the I's and cross the T's. And that is basically everything I have for this episode. So we got a POV coming up, and I guess I forgot to film it. Oh no, and I did my whole voiceover to. Oh crap. Just kidding. Here it is, guys. I will see you guys in the next episode, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.